Hi everyone. So today we are going to be looking at the 8.3 notes, solving quadratic equations using the quadratic formula. Now I know that some of you were absent yesterday, so you'll get all of the notes, and some of you may just need to review this before you do the practice today. Our learning target is that we can solve quadratic equations, and this time specifically using the quadratic formula. And the reason for that is because the quadratic formula is a way to solve quadratic equations no matter what the equation is. Factoring, we can use that to solve quadratic equations, but only if that trinomial is factorable. Some are not. The quadratic formula always works. We use it when it is in this form, ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. If some of those terms are on the right side, you may need to move them over, and we'll look at an example of that so that it looks like this, okay? Once you're there, you identify what your A value is, your B value, and your C value, okay? So A, B, and C. You need to know what they all are in order to plug them into these spots in the formula. Notice they all say x equals, and that's because x stands for the solutions, otherwise known as the x-intercepts. We could have no x-intercepts. We might have one x-intercept, and a lot of times we have two x-intercepts, which is why we have this symbol here in the middle called a plus or minus sign, because we're going to add and subtract, creating two separate solutions. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at our first example. Open your notes up. On the inside, I did leave the formula there so you could see it. Let's start out by realizing that this is an equation. It asks for the solutions, which means it wants the x-intercepts. And the quadratic formula is going to help us. So let's look and identify our A, B, and C. A is 1, B is 32, and C is 248. The reason A is 1 is because there's no number in front of the x squared, so there's an imaginary 1. Now your next step is you would want to write the formula that you see there at the top, but everywhere there's an A, a B, or a C, you put parentheses. So x equals, I'm going to draw my fraction line. In the numerator, we have a negative b, but instead of b, I put parentheses. Plus or minus, then I put the square root. And inside the parentheses, we see b squared. So we're going to put a parentheses and then a squared on the outside of the parentheses. That's very important. Minus, and then a 4. And then it says AC. So we have one parentheses for A and the other one for C. And then in the denominator of the fraction, it is 2 times A. So we put parentheses for A. And now we're going to plug in all of those values, okay? So where the B is, we're going to put our B value, which is right here, 32. So right here is where B goes. It also goes right here. Okay. Now let's do A in blue. I'm trying to color code it to make it a little bit easier for us. A is 1. So A goes here and here. And lastly, the C value in orange is 248, and it goes right here, 248. Alrighty. So now from here, there's a few things we can do. Negative, really there's a negative 1 in front of that 32. Negative times 32 is negative 32. Plus or minus. In the bottom, we have 2 times 1, which is 2. I'm going to put a square root. And now what I'm going to do here, guys, is I'm going to take whatever is inside of the square root and I'm going to type it into my Desmos calculator. So in our Desmos calculator, or you could do it in a regular calculator that works as well, type in everything that you see underneath the square root. Parentheses, our B value is 32. And then make sure the squared is on the outside, guys. Here's the squared button. Minus 4 parentheses, the A value was 1, and then the C value was 248. Notice I did not put the square root. I only typed what was beneath the square root, and I got that it was 32. So now I'm going to replace all of that was in the radical with 32. It's looking good, but our answer is not quite complete, Something we learned recently in class was how to simplify a radical as much as possible. So we're going to do that here on the side. The rest of this is going to stay the same for now, negative 32 plus or minus. The bottom is still 2, but we need to simplify the square root of 32. And we're looking for a perfect square that divides into 32, which was 16. 16 times 2 is 32. And the square root of 16 is 4. So this is the simplified version of square root of 32. So we're going to replace it right here. Our last step is that now we need to actually divide by 2, that denominator. So we're going to divide negative 32 divided by 2 and get negative 16. Then we put the plus or the minus, but also that 4 needs to be divided by the 2 as well. So 4 divided by 2 is 2. And we cannot divide the square root by the 2 in the bottom because one has a square root and one does not, so it's going to stay square root of 2. These are our solutions. That's right, I said these because this is actually 2 solutions. I'm going to write them out for you right here. One of them is negative 16 plus 2 square root of 2, and the other one is negative 16 minus 2 square root of 2. So I took that plus or minus and I split it into 2 answers. These are your solutions, otherwise known as your x-intercepts. They're not whole numbers because our parabola touches the x-axis twice. They're 2 x-intercepts, but they're not whole numbers, okay? If you want to find out what they are as decimals, you can type them into your calculator. All right, let's try another one. This one says specifically what is the positive solution. So keep that in mind while we're working. So our A value is 3. Our B value is negative 4. Very important that you include the negative. And our C value is negative 7. So now let's go ahead and so now that we have A, B, and C, let's write our formula. I'm going to rewrite it. You don't have to rewrite it. I just want to make sure that we can see it while I'm working through it. Okay, so I'm just going to rewrite the formula real quick. Okay, remember, the first thing you do is you write the formula with parentheses. Anywhere there's an A, a B, or a C, put parentheses. There it is. So in this particular problem, let's plug in our A, B's, and C's. Our B's are negative 4. Our A's are 3. And our C is negative 7. Now we can calculate our answer, now that we've got everything plugged in correctly. So first and foremost, there is a double negative here. So that actually makes this a positive 4. And then like we did before, I'm going to type in whatever is underneath that square root. Okay, so let's go to Desmos real quick, and I'm going to type that in. Parentheses, our B value was negative 4, close parentheses, then hit the squared button. Minus 4 parentheses, our A value was 3, and our C value was negative 7. So all of that totaled out to 100, which is wonderful for us because 100 is a perfect square. We can actually take the square root of 100, which is going to make our lives much easier. And then in the bottom, we have 2 times 3, which is 6. So let's continue this. We've got 4 plus or minus, and the square root of 100 is 10. Now let's go ahead and split these into 2 answers, right? One of them is 4 plus 10 divided by 6, and the other one is 4 minus 10 divided by 6. Let's look at both of them. 4 plus 10 is 14, so now we're doing 14 divided by 6. Since 6 cannot divide into 14, we're just going to reduce the fraction to 7/3. Over on the right, 4 minus 10 is negative 6. And when we divide it by 6, we get negative 1. So those are our two solutions. But remember what this problem said. At the very beginning, it said, what is the positive solution? So this is our answer, okay? This one down here is not. We only wanted the positive solution. They do that a lot on the STAR test. Last one. On this one, guys, remember everything has to be on the left side with a 0 on the right side. So these two need to move over to the left. And when they do, their signs will change. 5x squared stays the same, but when 30x moves to the left, it now becomes negative 30x. And when negative 45 moves to the left, it becomes positive 45. And now there's nothing over here, and we can identify that our A is 5, our B is negative 30, and our C is 45. Now I'd like you to take a minute to pause this video and try this problem on your own. Hey everyone, so hopefully you're checking your answers now and you plugged them in just like I did. The double negative right here becomes a positive 30, so it's negative 30, which became a positive 30. When I typed in everything under the square root with the parentheses and everything, it came out to 0. What really happened was negative 30 squared was 900, and 4 times 5 times 45 was also 900, and 900 minus 900 gave us 0. And then in the denominator, 2 times 5 is 10. Now the square root of 0 is 0. And then I just split it into 2, remember, because the plus or minus sign splits. One of them will have the plus and the other will have the minus. 30 plus 0 is 30, divided by 10 is 3. 30 minus 0 is 30, divided by 10 is 3. So we only actually had one solution. What that means is that this particular quadratic function only touched the x-axis one time. Now, if I was doing this on the STAR test, I would graph it on Desmos, okay? So I would type it in right here, 5x squared minus 30x plus 45. And then I would go over here and I would see, voila, there is my solution. It touches the x-axis exactly at 3. But you still have to move everything to the left side first. You still need it to look like this before you can type it into Desmos. Keep that in mind, okay, guys? Make sure you complete your practice that I've left for you and turn it into the sub. If you turn it in late, like the next day, it's going to be 20% off. So you must turn it into the substitute before you leave today, okay? Have a great day, guys, and let me know if you need anything.